evening, everybody. Good night, or no, good evening, I think is what you say when you say hello.
Talking Dirty
with Maestro.
Not just numbers,
Not just stats.
it's about what they mean.
Oops. Maestro. We're gonna throw this into a movie.
See, is that better for you?
Educate me. I'm going to send to you the information.
Talking Dirty.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Talkin Dirty. Me. I am going to again step out of the traditional scouting role for 1 second. Well, it's still scouting, but it's not what I was asked to do. So listen to this podcast real fast before I get fired for doing this. I went back and looked at the Bay Area Showtime game in the Race to One, the Trey versus Yams showdown. And I want to kind of give a conversation about that particular game to let you know what I've seen, what I saw. So I'm going to talk about it from a scouting perspective. And this is going to be very condensed. If you are interested in this, I can do an expanded version of it. All right. Because I charted out the game and I charted it out again and I charted it out again. But then my last chart out, I did specifically with the focus on Trey and Corey. So overall in the game, there were, and just quick scout head-to-head talk. Okay, so it's going to be technical for a second, but I promise I won't make it too crazy for you. Overall, there was 114 possessions back and forth, how you count possession, depending on whatever method you use. And in those 114 possessions, Trey and Corey actually headed up in what's called intentional post-drop possession, which means one of them had the ball. They were in a position to either score or manipulate a play. That, believe it or not, that only happened in that many possessions. It really only came down to like 32 with them both. Now, here's the thing that's sort of crazy about the stats and how it plays out on this. Trey, in terms of players defended, points defended, he only gave up 6 the entire game. And only 2 were against Corey. The rest of the time, Trey was able to keep strong post on Corey in the block. He blocked him 3 times. He also forced passes 8 times, which means Corey gets the ball in the post. Trey had leverage. Corey's so smart. He tries to make a move. He realizes he doesn't have leverage. He kicks the ball back out to his man. And unfortunately, only 2 of those times did it convert into points. But it just shows you the intelligence in the chess match that was going on between the two. Overall in the game, Trey one really bad possession where he had the ball in the paint and he chose not to use his athleticism, or perhaps he was tired. He did play 32 minutes. I can go back and check the stat. He played 32 minutes by my measurement here, or thereabouts, 31 minutes, something seconds. And I think fatigue kind of kicked in a little bit because there were a couple of plays where he just did not move his feet. I don't know if there was confusion of where he was on the floor, if he didn't see it. I'll never know that. Maybe he might not even remember the exact moment because he was so fluid throughout the game. And I'm going to talk about this in 1 second. Yams pretty much set out the entirety of the second quarter. So Trey is on the floor. And oh my goodness, there was one time, another bad move where he gave up a backdoor alley-oop. It was a weak side screen flash. I believe it was McLee. I'm not sure. But normally there would be help side D if it was on the strong side. This was not on the strong side. This was on the weak side. Trey stayed with the ball in man just 1 second too long, which gave the upper side move, allowed the backside alley-oop to happen on the weak side flash. That play rarely gets off, but it was executed absolutely perfectly. There's nothing that Trey could have done about that outside of give up his man sooner and recognize he was on the weak side. And that's just a learning move right there. The one thing I saw in that particular quarter is once Trey develops a post rebound positioning leverage strength move, My man's going to be unstoppable. A couple of times, players got the rebound over him because even though it appeared he had position, he didn't have leverage. Those are two different things. We talked about this. And that is about where your hips are placed against your leverage, against the weight of your player. And we talked about that in the rebounding segment. And I, going back and watching the game now for probably the 7th time, I think, in total, paying attention to him. I'm going to use the word weakness, but not out of negativity, that kept coming back. Okay, he's got position, but he didn't get the rebound. And it didn't happen a lot. Technically, it only happened 5 times, but for a player of his ability, in my opinion, that's 7 times too many. On a couple of plays when he got blocks, it was sheer, absolute positioning and moving to the ball. And again, he got a dirty stat line in this, right? It was 12 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and 3 blocks. Yams did not do bad either.
We ain't done yet.
Yams got 10 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, but no blocks. Most of what Trey did was the team, if not game leader, for that particular game. Now, the advantage that Yams had, outside of not playing as many minutes as Trey, and those 6 minutes, because I believe Yams played 26 minutes or 25 minutes, 47 seconds or something like that. That little time with the way that Trey was moving gave him a serious advantage that he took advantage of, because he had some strong plays coming down into the end of the game that were just super, super significant. Also moving his team forward, even in those cases where even in the last possession, from possessions 93 to possessions 107, when Yams got the ball in the paint, he had backed down Trey. Again, he had position, realized he didn't have leverage, moved the ball out really quick. Again, one of those two that happened specifically after possession 102 and possession 104 turned into buckets, which actually helped. The idea of how these guys moved, Trey was on both ends of the floor. I believe if we had like ankle monitors on them, Trey probably ran a half a mile more than anyone else, because there were times when his teammates would make a bad pass and he'd be in the post. The Showtime would have a breakaway. The second man down the floor would be Trey, one time leading to a block, a couple of times leading to disruption, but it shows you how active he was. And that is just sort of the athleticism that you really want to see. And then last but not least, and then again, I know this is going longer than normally these do, but I just kind of want to give you an analysis of this game from a scouting standpoint. 3 things that I would look at and say for Yams' game: once he starts to recognize position and can turn position into leverage, and for him, it comes off one thing. I believe Corey sits in the bucket a little bit too much because of his physicality. Every single play he made in the paint, including the buckets he got on Trey and on other people, he is so strong, and recognizing his strength and being able to use his strength to create leverage is a major, mega plus. And I like to see him do more of that and add on to his athleticism game by being able to sometimes go with the power game, sometimes go with the finesse game. And he has athleticism to turn that way, which means if he has a guy down in the post, and even though he might have the position, he doesn't have the leverage, his footwork is so quick. Corey, I can see you making a quick interlateral turn, which means I step in, step back with my foot that doesn't have the ball. So if I have the ball in my right hand, I do it with my left foot. I step back as if I'm stepping into my man, because I don't have leverage, so I'm not giving up anything, right? So now that's neutral. Then what I do is I step out, I weight shift back to the ball. Now what I've done, I've created distance. Now I can reset. Once you do that and learn a move like that, man, nobody's stopping you. Nobody's stopping you in the paint, I promise. The other thing that I'd like to see Corey M do is get quicker with his handle. There was a couple of times when he actually tried to lead a breakaway. Now, granted, he had no backup, not his fault. Even with the athleticism on that team, he was out in front, but he wasn't followed the way I thought he could have been. If he gets quicker with his handle, those are going to turn into just breakaway dunks for him. Pretty much easy. And then the last thing I say, going back to the other side, we talked about Trey's low post presence. I like to see Trey be a little less deferential when he gets the ball in the paint. On 7 possessions, when he took the ball right to the rim, it actually counted, even though he only got buckets off of 4 of those. 2 times I thought we was making a move to the rim. He made an incredible pass for a big guy who can pass like that. Same thing for Corey. These guys who can pass better than guards in some cases. It's amazing to see. I like to see him this time. You know what? Make it about you. Finish at the rim with violence and knock that stupid square off the backboard. That was my sort of quick analysis of this particular game that went way too long. So I might not have a job tomorrow. So just in case, it's been nice letting you guys check it out. I can do an in-depth series on each possession and walk you through things that happen in various possessions as I mark them out on my notes. Let me know what you think. You know the deal. I want to hear what's on your mind. I want to hear what you got going for you. I want to hear how you think this might help or maybe not. I need to shut up and talk about something else. You know, Maestro is open for anything. Let me know what's going down. Drop something down in the line below. And just do me a real big favor while you're doing that. Please don't tell E-Lava I'm really, really a lot older than he is. He just doesn't know it yet.
Thank you for listening to the Maestro. Want to get involved? Bring it.
Drop in discord.gg/SimWorld Hoops.
If you have the brain, join as a coach. If you have the game,
join as a player.
see the game,
Be
be the
the
game.
game.
Now, back to the
Maestro.
Maestro.
Sorry. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Hello, welcome back in this half with your boy. Just gonna get into it. The art of the steal. I've talked about this a few times, but let's get into some specifics. I've constantly said this, I will say it again. The best time to actualize a steal off your opponent is when the ball hits the floor during a dribble. That is when you activate to the ball. You can either dive, you can either be there and get it and slap it away, but that is when they have the least amount of control. On the way down, I know what you're thinking, they've already released a dribble. But many people dribble on the borderline of carrying. So what do? The ball is purely released right before it hits the ground, and then as it's now coming back up. Once I hear that pop of the ball hitting the floor, as I anticipate the pop of the ball hitting the floor, that's my when the twins activate mode, I'm going after the ball. I guarantee you, in that action, you will find yourself securing many steals or many disruptions where you're going to, if nothing else, getting to the head of your opponent and how they can now manipulate their handle. The key to this is what? You need them off balance. Not want. You need them off balance because you want to be able to lead the action, to actualize the play, to actually move those players into a position where they're now unsure of themselves as they are looking to move the ball up the floor, up the court. And don't be afraid to act the same in the post, as I talked about it a few pods ago. When you do your film study on a cat, on a big particularly, and you know every time that they secure a rebound, they bounce the ball off the floor, make that work for you. Get into the flow of the game, maybe let them be comfortable. You don't have to do it right away. One of the classic things that Bill Russell talked about in one of his clinics was he would let a player do their favorite move for the first part of a game because he could disrupt it at any given point because he knew what that move was. And when he disrupted it at a key point, generally later in the game, it threw that player off enough that it gave him and his teammates an opportunity to move forward. Don't be afraid to go to the psychology of championship ball. You don't have to stop every play the same way every time. It makes you predictable. If your opponent is predictable, don't let them know that you know that they are predictable. and use that to your advantage. This is where steals come in. If you know that a player, and I think I talked about this before, I played against this guy, bring the ball up. He'd always make a pass. This pass was always to his right, my left. Always, always. And it wasn't just me, anybody defending him. His first pass, every time he came down, he'd make a pass to his right and he'd flare to the left. I let him get away with that during the game. At the right moment, I waited and I started to run even before he made the pass. And he, in the middle of passing, I could see it in his eyes. Oh no! Like that commercial when everybody does a spill. Because I was already heading to where he was going to put the ball. And he threw it right to me. It was a perfect assist. I took it down. Boom! Chose violence. Came back and said, good assist, Holmes. And then I came back and I pressed, even though the coach didn't call for a press. I pressed on the inbound pass. He was so shook up. I got another steal right underneath my own basket, another 2 points. And I said, I owe you that one too. And I just kept it going. I think I got 6 points out of this little transition where their coach finally had to call a timeout because his coach was losing his mind. But for the remainder of the second half, that guy was all mine because he was so unsure of himself, because he would do this so many times and get away with it with no pressure. All of a sudden now he's got pressure in his grill, and that pressure was Maestro all night long, baby. That's how you make these things work for you. Again, predictability. Wait for the bounce, go for the ball. Look for the bounce pass. The exact same thing there. When you see the bounce pass occur, anticipate the activation of the ball hitting the floor. Go get it. Get on with it. Move it up. That's the art of the steal, part 1 of who knows how many. And we'll talk about it more, but hopefully that helps you, give you a little inside nugget to be able to take your game up another notch to become the most awesome players that all of you already are. Holla at your boy. Let me know what else you want to hear about. Let me know what else you want to talk about. Let me know what else. You look, old heads know the deal. Do what you got to do. Season's coming up. I need to see some more dirty. Get some action, baby. Steals are one of the ways you can get it done and also help out your team. And as you're helping out your team, just remember one thing. The secret to good fried moon pies is you all.
Like, I need to talk to somebody.
Thank you for listening to Maestro.
Thank you again for checking out Maestro. Drop a tag below and give us a piece of your mind. See you next time.
Well, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.